Hi y'all, Susie Toronto here from New Smyrna Beach, Florida. So I'm on a rant today. I'm not selling anything. I'm not even showing you anything. I'm just on one of my rants today. So I started the morning, beautiful sunrise here about 6 o'clock this morning. And I went down to the beach to dance. That's one of my favorite things to do, is go down and do the hula before anybody gets down there. And so after I've been down there for a little over, I want to say almost 2 hours this morning dancing. And after I had finished dancing, I decided I was going to go out into the water and cool off because I'd gotten pretty sweaty by standing there on the shore dancing all morning. Hi, John Gillian. So did you see me dancing on the beach this morning? I was out there. So I decided to go into the water. So as I started to venture out into the water, a couple of beach walkers that were walking by both directions stopped and decided to warn me and say, did you know that New Smyrna is the shark capital of the world, and you need to be really careful because there's sharks feeding and this is like feeding time. And well, first of all, it was past feeding time because the sharks usually eat at sunrise. And besides that, I knew something that they didn't know. And I said, well, would you be afraid to go out into the water? And they said, oh yeah, we would never go out in the water this time. And I go, really, why is that? And they said, well, we just don't, we can't control the sharks. We can't control what's going on out there. And I said, I agree. It's a calculated risk when you go out into the water at New Smyrna because of the sharks. But I said, sometimes knowledge can trump fear. And I said, I know something that maybe you don't. And they said, well, what is that? And I said, look out there. There's dolphins. The dolphins are out this morning. And if dolphins are out, the sharks aren't. That's just kind of a general rule. It's not like carved in stone. But I remember as a young child surfing that was one of the rules that we kind of went by, is that as long as you saw dolphins, you were in good shape. So I decided to go ahead and go out and play in the water this morning. And as I was floating in the water, and my favorite thing to do is float in the water with only my face showing and then the rest of me completely submerged. I absolutely love that feeling of being surrounded by water. And as I did, I thought back on how many times I have seen people allow fear to stop them from living. Think about that. How many times have you allowed fear to stop you from truly living? I remember raising my family in Hayden Lake. We had a beautiful lake up in North Idaho where we lived, and the water was freezing cold in the springtime especially. It was just really, really chilly, to go out into the water. And there would be we would load the boat up at sunrise because the best time to go water skiing would be early in the morning. And there would be kids that so badly wanted to go on the boat ride and go out and ski on the glassy water, but they were so afraid because it was cold. Really? You're going to let the fear of it being cold stop you from, or being slightly uncomfortable, stop you from living? And I thought back on, okay, so put yourself in of being a kid. You maybe, Susie, as an adult, you've got some life experiences that have trained you not to be so afraid. So I thought back as a child, and there again, I thought of jumping off the cliffs at Waimea Beach. Any of my Polynesian friends out there, you know what I'm talking about, that amazing cliff to go cliff jumping on. And I can't tell you how many times that the rock would be just filled with people that had climbed up thinking that maybe they would attempt to jump off of the cliff there and to jump into Waimea, surf. And not that many of them would. There'd just be a few of us that would. And they'd just be so scared and so afraid. And we would explain to them that, it's high tide and you wait till the wave comes and you jump in the wave and it's safe and there's no rocks below and everything. And over and over and over again, all of us local kids were doing it. And yet those people would stand on the rock wanting to live so badly, wanting to jump in off the edge and experience the joy of cliff jumping at Waimea, yet their fear stopped them. And I thought, so what is the difference? How do we become a person that doesn't let fear control our life? And, part of it is understanding what fear is. Fear is not always a bad thing. Fear doesn't mean that you're not scared. I've got to admit, every time I would jump off those cliffs, I would have that tinge of adrenaline rush that would go through me. But sometimes we confuse that rush of adrenaline for fear and danger. And the key is learning to decipher the two. And so I always think of it as that whenever I would get that adrenaline rush and that fear, that it was because I was about to do something very, very brave, and that I was about to muster the courage up within myself to really experience life to its fullest. I realized at that point that fear was a reaction. It was a reaction of my emotions, and that courage was a choice. Now think about that. Fear is a reaction. Courage is a choice. I decided right then and there that courage didn't mean that I wasn't afraid, but I did decide that courage is what was going to give me the opportunity to really experience life to its fullest. You know, I believe with all my heart that we were put on this earth and we were designed with the glory of God within us to experience everything that's wonderful about this world. And we have to do that by squelching that fear, especially the irrational fear. Now, you know, yeah, sure. If I was jumping out of an airplane with no parachute, yeah, I would be fearful of that. And, you know, that would be a good thing to stop. But it's about putting it all into perspective and not letting fear define your future. So how do you do that? How do you not let fear define your future? First of all, part of it is about taking calculated risks, you know, like jumping off the falls at Waimea. Kids were doing it. We knew the patterns of the waves, and we were jumping into the waves, and it was high tide, and you know there wasn't a risk really, unless you didn't know how to swim. This morning, I thought that was a calculated risk that I was willing to take by swimming with the sharks. There weren't any sharks; it was just the dolphins. But you know, to be able to experience life and to let go of that, sometimes having knowledge helps. And don't let your illusion of knowledge, your illusion of just thinking that there is something ominous out there when really there isn't. That's an important thing to do. The second thing is that sometimes you just need to act as if. You just have to be brave and you just have to go for it. Don't let it stop you. I can't tell you how many times, especially during this whole COVID thing, that I see people who have decided to quit living. They're so afraid of death and they're so afraid of COVID that they decided to quit living. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't a whole lot of us that are autoimmune compromised. I'm one of them. You know, I've told you before, I have late-stage Lyme disease. I have to be super careful. But I have not stopped living, not for 1 minute. I have not hoarded up inside my condo doing nothing all day long but fretting and wringing my hands. I've gotten busy. I'm doing service projects. I'm having other people deliver some of the service projects for me so that I'm not exposed. But, you know, I've not stopped living by any means. And I think that's important for us to remember to do that. Just remember that fear does not stop death, but it does stop us from living. It does stop us from going out into the world and experience all the wonderful things that life has to offer. Remember, fear is a reaction. Courage is a choice. Choose to be courageous. Choose to embrace life. Choose to give it all you've got. And I'll tell you what, I would rather live my life to the fullest, going down with my last breath as being happy and joyful, fulfilling my destiny of my creation, than to be cooped up in my home, wringing my hands, fearful to go out. So go out, be smart about it, but go out and do things. Go for walks, get out. Fresh air is good. You need the vitamin D. Vitamin D, they're finding, is one of the things that fights the COVID the best. So go for it. Don't be fearful. Live life and enjoy. Aloha and mahalo.